So, as I mentioned in my last video, we are moving on to testing slightly more expensive, higher class bookshelf speakers. First up are the Audiovector QR1s, priced at around 1000 euros. What immediately catches my attention is that these speakers are hand-assembled in Denmark. Supporting a local, family-owned European manufacturer deserves recognition. On par with expectations are the design and craftsmanship. The speakers look incredible and extremely distinctive. In my opinion, they might just be the best looking speakers in their price range, which I will be honest is one reason I picked them for testing first. The AMT tweeter with its gold-plated so-called S-stop mesh stands out right away. This element additionally differentiates them from other speakers with AMT such as the Wharfedale Evo 4 or Sonoro Orchestra. Interestingly, behind the mesh there is also a chrome element on the driver itself which nicely reflects the light, adding extra appeal. At first I wasn't entirely sure about the visible screws around the drivers, but I've gotten used to it. There are only 3 of them and somehow they blend in with the rest of the design. Particularly the surrounds made from brushed metal. Also they put their nice logo just about everywhere, like Maserati does, which I dig. The cherry on top is the aluminium midwoofer cone that fits perfectly with the rest of the metallic elements. One surprise with the QR1s is their size. They are really small, even smaller than the KEF LS50, which perhaps might raise concerns about their sonic potential. So how do they sound? Right away, I will tell you, despite their small size, the sound they produce is impressively large. Though, especially when you turn up the volume, the scale is much bigger than the physical dimensions suggest. From the first audition, what stands out is the clarity. The sound is clear, fast, agile and energetic, somewhat reminiscent of the Powers and Wilkins signature sound. The highs are in fact very prominent. Comparing in-room measurements to my reference Quadral Platinum Plus 2, there is a noticeable emphasis around 10 kHz and a slight one in the 3.5 to 6 kHz region. These are just simple measurements taken in my listening room, but indeed they align with my listening impressions. Don't get me wrong, the treble here is precise, clear, slightly sweet, and micro details are well represented, but the overall sound can feel a bit harsh, dry, and occasionally metallic. What's interesting, however, is that vocals don't come off too sharp, which might be because the frequencies where human voices sit aren't overly accentuated. Or maybe it's because of this S-stop mesh working, which supposedly acts like a pop filter, reducing sibilance. Regardless, where there is some sharpness that can be overlooked, vocals for the most part sound smooth, which isn't very common. Another interesting thing is the dispersion, especially after my previous experience with AMT tweeters in the Evo 4. With the Wharfedale Evo 4, you could clearly hear the treble deaden as you move around or stand up, which annoyed me. In the Audiovector, it's really close, if not equal to a dome tweeter, which says much. Also, I noticed a very clean behavior when you turn up the volume. I feel you get more details, scale and air between instruments than with a standard dome tweeter, and that's all despite their very bright treble. Impressive. The midrange is decent, similar to the quadrals I feel, with a slight warmth. Vocals are good, maybe not overwhelmingly large in scale, but decently defined and clear. Instruments have a satisfying presence. When it comes to bass, in reviews I've read, it was often listed as a weakness, but for me there is a surprising amount of it for a speaker with a front-firing bass reflex port. That said, truthfully, the lowest frequencies around 30 to 40 Hz aren't as strong. But still, the most important overall bass presence I consider as good. Thanks to the front port, the bass also feels well controlled, clean and doesn't boom even when listening up close. More than having strongest lower frequencies, I believe it would be nice if there were a bit more bass at lower volumes. But otherwise, it's coherent, clean and really surprising for a front-ported speaker of this size. The bass is better than in the Wharfedale Evo 4.1. Overall, I find the sound more interesting than in the Wharfedales. The bass is fuller and the highs aren't as subdued. To me, the sound is also more enjoyable than in the Focal Aria 906 or Monitor Audio Silver 106th generation, which I've listened to before. The scale of sound and speaker behavior suit my preferred listening style better, which I believe bookshelf speakers are made for, listening from a fairly close distance. Also, in comparison, the sound is more coherent and pleasant as a whole. Here, the macro detail, sound coherence, and spaciousness stands out, and that is what I expect in future tests of speakers from this class. In conclusion, the Audiovector QR1s are beautifully crafted speakers built in Denmark. There is no doubt that a lot of care went into development of this one, not just in their external design, but inside as well. I should also mention the newer SE generation has now been released, but I don't believe the changes are substantial. The drivers are exactly the same with only minor crossover adjustment from what I've seen. Prices have gone up, however, but fair enough, I don't believe these are cheap in production. Anyway, the QR1 sound signature is lively, slightly metallic and energetic. It's most comparable to Bowers & Wilkins, though the B&Ws have a bit more emphasis in the upper mid-range. The impressive AMT dispersion and lack of sibilance despite their brightness are definitely worth highlighting. Somewhat they also remind me of Monitor Audio Bronze 2s, but with much better weight. Is that enough for me to give them 5 stars? Honestly, based on their appearance alone, it's tempting, but no. Personally, I look for slightly less sharpness in the highs and more body to the sound, especially at lower volumes. It would also be nice if the vocals were a bit more prominent. For those reasons and taking the price into account, I'm rating them 4 out of 5 stars. However, if you love lively, highly detailed sound, you should definitely check out the Audiovector QR1. You might not find anything better for your taste. For the rest of you, stay tuned for more bookshelf speaker tests. It's getting really interesting. As always, I won't tell you to subscribe, that's your call, but consider it if you don't want to miss my upcoming reviews. See you in the next one. Peace.